Well, hi there. Welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. And my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision for you and your family as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both sometimes watching a specific film. So the movie I'm reviewing today is called Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. You like that little accent there? Guillermo del Toro. I can't say it like a gringa. Guillermo del Toro. Anyway, his Pinocchio had its world premiere at the BFI London Film Festival in October. Then it went to select theaters in the USA in November, and now it will be available on December 9th exclusively on Netflix. The movie is rated PG, but personally, I think the movie should have been rated PG-13. I'll tell you why. I'll give you some tips for parents in just a few minutes. The movie is an hour and 57 minutes, which is a really long movie. I'll talk about that too. But my overall movie review mom grade for this is an A minus. Let me give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents because kids are probably going to be interested in this. And so I really want you to pay attention to those tips. And then I'll share some themes worth talking about, interesting lines, funny lines, and recommendations for some other films that are sort of similar that you might also like. All right, you ready? Let's dive in. In a nutshell, Academy Award-winning filmmaker Guillermo del Toro reinvents Carlo Collado's classic tale of the wooden marionette who is magically brought to life in order to mend the heart of a grieving woodcarver named Geppetto. This is the description that Netflix is giving, by the way. This whimsical stop motion musical directed by Guillermo del Toro and Mark Gustafson, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, follows the mischievous and disobedient adventures of Pinocchio in his pursuit of a place in this world. So many versions of the Pinocchio story have been made without always offering anything new or particularly inventive. This one most definitely does. I had heard that this movie was going to be dark, and dark it is. This very dark fairy tale definitely feels more like an adult movie than one for kids. Guillermo del Toro wrote the screenplay as well as directed the film with co-directing help from Mark Gustafson. Why is that name so hard for me to pronounce? It's English. Anyway, this is Mark's directorial debut and the first time Guillermo del Toro has directed an animated film. So what a brave pair they are. So here's the list of things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, the stop motion animation is absolutely stunning. Each frame could be a piece of art. It's that good. Film students who are studying stop motion design will absolutely be talking about this movie for decades. The talented cast packs a powerful punch, including quite a few Oscar winners. Cate Blanchett, Christoph Waltz, John Turturro, Ron Perlman, Ewan McGregor, Tilda Swinton, David Bradley, Finn Wolfhard, and the young Gregory Mann, who voices Pinocchio. Originally, Guillermo del Toro wanted John Hurt to play the voice of Geppetto, but unfortunately, John Hurt, as you probably already know, passed away in 2017 before the voice work began on this movie. Rather than stick with the traditional setting of the 1800s in Italy, I thought it was curious that Guillermo del Toro chose to make the setting in Italy during World War II under Mussolini's fascist leadership. The movie has a very heavy hand on war, Nazis, and death. At one point, he stated that he was trying to blend elements of the Frankenstein stories with that of Pinocchio. I thought that was an interesting and strange choice. I mean, it makes sense because Frankenstein was created like Pinocchio, but one is more of a child story and one is very much an adult story. So anyway, I mean, that's how he is. He always goes dark and complicated visually and thematically, don't you think? There's a running gag that whenever the cricket voiced by Ewan McGregor, starts to sing, he's cut off. It made me laugh every time. It would have, however, made a really nice ending to allow the cricket, Ewan McGregor, to actually sing a full song to the very end to close the story at the end of the movie. Now he does start to sing, but it's not the full performance that I wanted. So if you want to hear Ewan McGregor really belt it out, definitely check out the movie Moulin Rouge. Now, that's also kind of a darker story, not a children's family-friendly viewing, but you get to hear Ewan McGregor sing, and he has a really lovely voice. I thought it was clever to have the traditional blue fairy in Pinocchio be a wood sprite, since Pinocchio is actually made from wood, right? She also represents death, and she offers some very difficult choices and even rules for Pinocchio to make and to live by. So there were some things I didn't like about this movie. Visually, the timeline doesn't match the animation style for the father. For example, he starts the movie looking like an old man. Then we see many, many years pass as a seedling grows into a giant tree. We see Geppetto then as the same age after that. So I would love to have seen him as a younger man with brown hair and a brown beard in the beginning of the movie, and then changed to gray hair as he aged. And maybe I'm missing something, but at least that's how it looked to me. A certain character dies. I'm trying not to give you spoilers. And then he goes on to continue talking and offering narration. So, what the what? How exactly does that work? Some may think that the runtime of almost 2 hours is too long. And I admit that I did look at the clock a time or two, wondering where else are we going with this, especially when things changed. For example, Pinocchio purists might not like the choice to remove Pleasure Island from the story. Instead, it's replaced with something very, very dark, dealing with World War II and Nazis. The original telling of Pinocchio illustrated a curious boy made of wood who makes mistakes because he's learning what it's like to be sort of human. But this one features an instantly disobedient and rebellious Pinocchio. This Pinocchio is not as endearing as other versions that I've seen, where you want to root for him. He's learning and you forgive him and he's endearing. And in this one, I was like, I don't know about this guy. All right, so let me give you some tips for parents, as if what I've told you so far isn't enough. There are quite a few bombs that go off and kill people and creatures. Lots of people die in various ways. There's smoking. Geppetto gets drunk, and the scene goes on and on and on with him being drunk. I mean, I get it. He was distraught, but still, I just didn't think that we needed to see all of the drunken behavior and have it go on for so long. There's some rude humor. There's violence with various weapons. And then again, there's talk of war, World War II specifically, and Nazis. We see some and other leaders of that fascist government. And there's commentary on those leaders, which I thought was interesting again for a children's movie. Again, this is not really a children's movie, though. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are obedience, disobedience, love and loss and the burden of love, friendship, courage, being good, choosing good, tragedy, cruelty, mortality, mourning, healing, the idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sacrificing for others, and father-son relationships. So I always write down funny lines and interesting lines so that you can kind of get a feel for the movie, for the script writing. So I didn't write down any funny lines. A lot of the humor I thought was more visual than truly clever, witty dialogue. And certainly of dialogue, I think will go over the heads of a lot of kids. But here's some interesting lines. So this is spoken by Tilda Swinton, who's incredible and should definitely be in every movie by Guillermo del Toro, because they just sort of have the same vibe, in my opinion. But anyway, she plays Death and the wood sprite. And she says, you never know how long you have with someone until they're gone. Well, that kind of seems like an obvious statement, but she's trying to explain that to the young Pinocchio who doesn't know about life and death and all of that. The cricket has, I thought, a lot of profound lines. He's played by Ewan McGregor, or voiced by Ewan McGregor, and he says some of these sentences. He says, "Love hurts." Now, when he says that, he actually gets bonked in the head or smashed or something. He's kind of often getting hurt. And so he says that, and it's supposed to be funny, but it's also a profound statement. And then one thing that the cricket says many times is try your best, and that's the best anyone can do. And the movie kind of gives permission for people and creatures to be flawed, and that there is beauty in that imperfection. Another time, cricket says life is such a wonderful gift, and it is. And then this, some of the lines, I wanted them to be more profound than they were. So cricket says, what happens, happens, and then we're gone. And I was like, yes, that's true, but I thought maybe it could have been said more profoundly. I don't know. He's a cricket. I don't know. And then Death, who's the wood sprite, also says there are rules and they must be obeyed. Decisions have consequences. And I would hope that children would definitely take this as a cautionary tale that decisions absolutely do have consequences. And both for Pinocchio and for Geppetto, really everybody involved in the story, but also in our own lives. And I wish that that one lesson alone were taught more, because it is hugely important for children to understand. All right, so let me give you a recommendation for another movie that is brand new out this year called Pinocchio. If this version is way too dark for your children, and if you have young children, I think it really is, then you might prefer the newest Tom Hanks version that came out just last month. I don't know, time flies. Was that 2 months ago? Recently. Now, I didn't think it was fantastic, but it also offers a new telling with some interesting symbolism that you can share with your kids and talk about. All right, I would love to know what you think of this version of the Pinocchio story. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. And if you're a Guillermo del Toro fan, you probably just absolutely love it. But again, if you're a parent, what do you think of letting your kids watch this version? All right, thank you so much for spending a lot of time with me. That was kind of a long-winded movie review, but I really wanted to make sure that you understood the content, because this isn't your typical Pinocchio telling. All right, have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.